All right, so we have a 9 hole cup. Is this a 9 hole cup? I think it is a 9 hole cup. So we've got the President's Cup, brand new holes. Quail Hollow, I think, is what they patterned them after. So I have never played these holes before, and everybody's probably asking, "Yeah, dude, we have brand new holes, but where in the hell have you been for the last month and a half?" So so before I started shooting videos for golf class, before you all got to know my bright and shiny voice, this is how it worked for me. I for 16 solid years, I in my industry, they're called deployments. So we would get a phone call, and you have 24 hours to respond, and you have no idea where you're going to go, or if it's in the states, you know where you're going to go. If it was outside of the states, it was like, show up, bring your passport, and we're off to do the deal, and you have no idea how long you're going to be gone, and you have no idea. So my wife dealt with it for 16 years, where I was actively on the deal, and my longest deployment was 9 months, where I was gone 9 months. Nobody knows where you're at. That's why I don't have a big social media deal, because it was all, you couldn't let people know where you were. And even with my wife stuff, they would monitor that to make sure it's all secret. But I took August off because it's hot and nobody wants to do stuff in the summertime, and everybody's out with their kids. And so we've decided as a company that from about July 15th, we actually worked until early August, till the end of August, beginning of September, that we were just going to take off because it's not worth doing. And the company I used to work for found out and asked me if I would take a 30-day deployment, and there we go. So I was gone. It was all secret. Nobody knows. So nobody could get a hold of me. I did call my wife. For those of you who are out there, I was able to call my wife every day and let her know I was still alive. But other than that, that's how it works. That's how it works. Some people have that type of job. So it's part of the reason why I got out of that industry, is because I would be gone, and we got into a stretch where we had a bunch of family members die, and I was gone. And it was like, not just like second cousins, it was direct family members. And it was a very rough time for my entire family. And during that time, I was gone. So I decided to make a life choice, and devote myself to my family and spend a little bit more time with them. So I haven't had to do this stuff for the last few years. So you guys have all gotten my shiny voice for the last few years, kind of uninterrupted, but this is what it used to be like all the time. So nobody knew where. That's why I live in the town that I live in. I've lived here for 30 years, and I have no friends. Because when you're gone the first time for a year, you come back, and the people that you know are now they're not necessarily ex friends, but they're people you used to know, and then they're acquaintances, and the next thing you know, you're gone for another 6 months, and then you come back, and after 3 or 4 years of that, you come back, and it's just people you know, or you used to know. You go over to their house, and everybody's happy, but you're not the daily friend thing. And that does work for 3, 4, 5 years, but after 16 years, I come home and I know nobody other than a few family members, and that's it. Which is weird, because I know more people outside of state. I have lots of close friends outside of the state, people that I've worked with, people that I've been on deployments with for years, that I'm very good friends with. But actually, where I live, I have very few friends. So you can see how that works. That's the way it is. So let's practice these holes. So I have not played these holes at all. I actually went out and I played 6 games at Tour 7, and out of 6 I won 1. I did make it to all 6 shootouts, but I only won 1 of the shootouts. So we'll see if I can get my skills back, and if I can actually remember the numbers on my clubs and remember how to play. All right, hole number 1. What do we got here? What do we got? And I did call Dunner. I've talked to Dunner, and I was going to see if Dunner wanted to play today, but he was doing something else, and he may call me, and we may go back, and this may be a short or maybe a long video. So hole number 1, it looks like to me that we have some kind of a rough bump situation. If I can get my pen to work, we have a rough bump situation right here. We could go directly at it. From where the tee box is, this has got to be a long iron. So I suppose if you brought out a big enough club, you might be able to squeeze it in a short iron, but it looks to me like it's going to be a long iron. And I'm going to drop it down to a nav. Cut the wind down a little. I got to remember how to play. Jeez. you leave for a while and you get back and it's like, okay, what was I doing? What was I doing? See if I can hit perfect. I'm going to put my perfect glasses on. I've missed my perfect glasses. I didn't take them with me when I left, and I did take 2 extra sets of glasses with me just in case something happened and my glasses got broke, but they're just my normal ones. All right, hole number 1. Let's practice it. Wow, we got an opponent quick. The Court Jester. If I ever started a rock band, that is actually the Court Jesters is my name for a rock band if I was to start a rock band. So we got a long iron down here. Let's see where their red line's at. Come on. Come on. Come on, Court Jester. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn, bro. Yeah, so they're not going to push it forward so we can see where the red line's at. And I'm just going to take straight up shots based off I'm not going to do any pluses or minuses. I'm just going to take a straight up shot. I'm going to force myself. Just straight up shots. I'm not worried about, I can go back and watch the video and see where it ended up, but I just want to take straight up shots. Since I haven't played it before, and let's just try and figure out what clubs, what ball, where we can take those shots. Grizzly, where's the red line? There's my red line. There's my min, so there's mid, so kind of in between mid and max. I don't know if I have enough topspin here to get me to it. I do. I don't like, this would probably be better with a ball that's got a little more side spin so we don't have to involve that sand. .32 should be 3.2 divided by 0.9. 355. It doesn't look like it's getting too distorted. 355. See if I can hit it perfect. Hitting it perfect. Wow, look at that. You can't hit it perfect. First time ever on the hole. Hole in one. Woo! Look at that shit. So if you go to Golf Clash Notebook and you pull up the wind charts for a Grizzly, and if you go there and pull it up, let's see if I have it up. Let's make sure I got that right. Golf Clash Notebook, JC Notebook. Go to clubs and go to long irons, and this page will reload. We get halfway down, get to the right spot, and then it'll reload. Wind chart, I've got a level 9 and I'm at 1 Powerball, 0.9 per ring, so it's actually more than accurate, more than 100% accurate. And when I'm playing in one-on-one a lot, where like usually I'll only play with up to a quasar, I sometimes forget that's, and it's just like it's 100% accuracy 1-to-1. But the Grizzly actually, when they redesigned it, and I'm not sure if it's not the only club that's like that, where it's actually beyond 100% accurate. But if you're using a low power ball and you're using a Grizzly, you should go look at those numbers, because it doesn't play quite off of, if you're using hand math, it doesn't quite play off of the way that it should. Practice hole number 2. What is hole number 2? Let's go look at hole number 2. Let's go to Tommy's site and look at it. Tommy's site. Hole number 2. All right, from the front tees. Now, I'm not sure what kind of distances we can get here, but this does look like, let's see if I can grab my pen, or if it hid, and it's hidden at the top. Hold on, damn it. Damn pens. So if we're coming from this spot to the tee box, drawing a straight line across here, that's obviously not going to work. We're going to need to come out into this area and bring it around. The question is whether or not you can get far enough out on this arc so that you can try and make a run through this at the at the very end where you're hitting up here and then you're trying to bleed up on the green. Anytime we're playing par fours, obviously you're going in. For my entire time of playing Golf Clash, par fours are like the bread and butter. This is where we have to get it done. We want to get it done on par threes and we want to get it done on par fives, but par fours are where we need to make our money. This is where we need to set ourselves up for success. That way when we pick up that hole-in-one or we pick up that Albie, those are the shots that are getting us ahead. Those are the shots that are putting us in banner range, but the par fours are what are getting us to that point to begin with. It really depends on how much you can make this spin. This hole does scream because it looks pretty barren out here. It does scream to me like max overpower hook, especially with something that's got a lot of topspin so that we can run it. It's always difficult at the very end of your run if you're trying to make it through some kind of a rough patch. So, if this rough patch was back here, we could try and get a bounce in front or a bounce behind, but here we're definitely going to be rolling through it. And so it's always difficult to have this type of deal at the end and make it very consistent. So let's see what we have out there on the course. This may be one of those holes where you got to play it several times just to get it right. And now I can't touch the screen because I used my overlay. Here we go. Hopefully everybody's been good, staying safe. Let's see what we can get going on. I go first. Yeah, so let's check this out. And I'm not going to worry too much about time here. If I get out of time, I'm going to be all right with that. I think I could make that. Let's see where I'm at as far as distance. I want to be a couple rings off that transitional surface. It's 1.5 per ring, so this should be 3 rings. Make sure I didn't lose any distance here. Let's see if we can overdo it. Let's see what it looks like if you put everything on it and see where it ends up. I think I'm going to end up in that sand trap. Now this would be a great spot for a 4-side spin ball. Now I think with a 4 power ball it might actually be a little bit too much with, you wouldn't have to put that wind back on there. So I was able to put quite a bit of wind back on. But a 4 power 4-side spin ball actually might be the ball for this. That might be an on-and-one shot. That way you could find a spot out here where you're not pulling it necessarily all the way to the red line. That way if you had a headwind, it gives you a little bit of room to work against it. And you could get that trajectory more towards the center of that rough instead of trying to bleed off towards the sand like I was. You can see where the sand's at. So we want to come through it in this area right here. That being said, this is definitely one of those shots, if you hit it perfect, it's going in. Hitting it perfect. In the hole. So I really think you can get up there even with a 3 power ball. A 3 power 4 side spin ball would really help. The side spin's just going to help give you a little bit more leeway coming through this rough area, because you really want to hit it kind of dead center. And it looks like the way the green's going, if you did come through in this area, it could actually funnel back down towards the cup. I don't know if you'd want to be on the far right, especially up high on that green. That green does look like it has a lot of movement to it. It could be one of those putts where you have to pull it way off to the side and you can't get it where you're not being able to do a straight on putt where you're having to pull it way off. And anybody that's watched my channel knows that I'm not the best putter in the world, and those are the types of putts that give me a little bit of a hassle. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Let's go look at that hole. Let's go look at what we had there. So I came through, my trajectory was bleeding me off in this direction right here. So anything great to the right, if I'd hit that great to the right, definitely would have put me in the sand. Where we want to come through on our trajectory, so my trajectory was bleeding me off like this, and where we really want to come through is where our ball's got that little teeny bit of extra curl, and we're actually coming through in this center part. We want to think of this as the area that we want to come through, and we want to come through it with a straight trajectory. So the only way to do that there is where I set it up back here on the backside of this tree. Out in this area, I gave myself 2 rings of separation away from this transitional surface. Especially when you're doing max curl. When I'm doing max curl, normally I like to give myself 3 rings of separation, and when I'm doing just a kind of a straight up shot, I like to give myself 2, but trying to pinch that as close as we can there. And I wouldn't worry about that tree, because the tree, the ball guide doesn't include curl. So if you're out in this area right here and the tree's in your way, I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can pull it off to the right hand side so that you can see how far your topspin's engaging, just so that you can get the feel for it. And it looked there, especially if you had like an extra mile, an upper developed extra mile, like a level 9, with that little bit of extra topspin, you have a little bit less base power, but the extra topspin could get you up there. The thing about the extra mile is you're not going to have the curl, and so the Apocalypse is probably the shot for this. And using a 4-4-4 ball will definitely get you more. So instead of having this type of trajectory, we can be inside of that trajectory, trying to hit it in the spot that we want. And I think that 6.5 topspin is about will work out fine with a 4 power ball. What I want to do if I use a 4 power ball, so with a 3 power ball, I'm at red line here, max. You almost want to set it up. You may have to pull. You want to set it up so that if you've got any forward moving wind, you still have a little bit of room for maneuver. But I'm not sure that that's possible. We'll have to play that hole a few more times and try out a 4-4-4 on it. And even with, like I said earlier, if you got a tailwind with a 4 side spin 3 power ball, that would be, I think that might be fine. That might be fine. Hey, come on, come on. Hole number 3. What is hole number 3? What is hole number 3? So, this is the first time I've seen these holes, let alone played these holes. So, that is one long asshole right there. So obviously this is a straight down the gut. The closer you can get, this is one of those shots that if you can get up there into your short iron range, you got a really good shot at it. We'll take a 3 power ball and see how far we can pound that sucker down there. And I'm going to take my extra mile just because it's got more topspin. When the Apocalypse gets to level 7, it picks up the topspin and it overtakes, and the extra mile will become obsolete. But right now it still has a place, and the place that it has right now is because of that 85 topspin. And I'm gonna, hey, I can upgrade my Spitfire, pick up some backspin. And I will tell you, don't worry, for those of you that are, if you're new and you've got lower developed clubs, this backspin that's on here, I wouldn't worry too much with the Spitfire. The Spitfire hits so high, and I've seen some videos where they're like, oh, this doesn't make a difference. The Spitfire hits so high that when it stops, any backspin is huge. So if you got a lower developed one and it only has like the 1.5 or 2 backspin, that 1.5 to 2 backspin on most clubs is like 3 or 4 backspin. It works really, really well. But picking up a little bit of accuracy, a ball guide would be good, but you don't get any more ball guide with the Spitfire until it gets to level 7. And this is one of the clubs that I am working on. Okay, come on. Take that bag, and I'm going to take a Titan, the king of balls. We'll see where it's at, because like I'm sure that if you bring out a bigger ball, you can get farther down there. And the whole goal on a hole like this is to try and get into your short iron range. If you can get into your short iron range, that's usually money. And if you can get deep into your short iron so that you're a minimum, it's even better. If you got lower developed clubs, you want to think, I'm using a Kingfisher. Kingfisher works out really good when you got lower developed stuff. And I think the Hornet kind of is really, I used a Hornet forever and a day until I screwed up and I maxed it out. I should have never maxed it out. I had much more success when it was a level 8 club. So I've switched back to my Kingfisher. It's more consistent. And I'm not interested in upgrading it any more than where it's at. So even if I got enough club cards to upgrade it, I won't upgrade my Kingfisher any more than where it is. I don't want it to get to 100% accurate. I like where it's at. So my opponent's got that's a killer ball too. That's that Top Spin Boost Power 5 ball. Let's see how far they can get down there with that ball. Way down there. And there, I don't think there's any way you're going to get down there. Now, in the upper divisions, even though the tee's farther back, the winds are so much higher, you may be able to get down there, but you're not going to get, I don't think you're going to get any better. You're not going to be able to get in the short iron range, which is would always be nice. Hitting it perfect. El perfecto. Be curious to know, hell, that's going to be a long-ass long iron shot. You may have to bring a bigger ball here just to get up there. Or a wood shot, excuse me. So my opponent's got a big dog, which is the biggest hitting wood in the game. It and a Cataclysm. I wish they'd push it forward so we could see where their red line is. I have no idea what my options are. I'm probably going to have to bounce over. It'd be nice if you could get up there into a rough bump range. You need a lot of topspin to be able to get to it, and I've got a sniper in this, so I don't actually have a super long hitting wood. Yeah, so you're going to have to bring a bigger ball if you want to get up there, even with that. Or you're going to have to bring out... I suppose I could do a max overpower shot. If I leave that wind in there, I'm going to overshoot it. If I could bleed through. It's kind of a difficult area. I do have several options here. Let's take some wind out. And I'll do a max overpower shot. And hit 75,000 rings great to the left. So I would say on that, if you're going to bring out a 3 power ball, you're going to definitely want to bring out a Cataclysm or a big dog. The cool thing about, especially a big dog, if you've got big dogs have lots of tools. They don't have a lot of ball guide, but it has a lot of tools. It usually, even when it's lower level and it's coming up, it's got top spin and curl, and it's got some raw distance. It's got some tools. Where the hell am I at? There's max. There's mid. So I'm in the good range. Hey, it's definitely one of those areas that you want to hit it perfect though. Hitting it perfect. In the hole. Eagle. So we're on a run. So we haven't dropped any. Smart and skilled. Good game, Kate. All right, hole number 4. What do we have for hole number 4? Let's check it out. It's probably a par 3. I would... Oh, no par 3 here. Is this a par 4? Par 4. So this is almost exactly like the one we played, only we don't have to deal with that little bit of rough in the front, but we've got the same kind of thing on the opposite side. So where we really want to get for our setup is we want to get in front of this for our turn. You're going to need lots of curl, depending on what club you've got or what's in your bag. So you may have to bring out a ball that's got more side spin, but we'll see what kind of distances we have out there. I'm going to bring, if you bring a 3 power ball, a Kingmaker is obviously going to work better because it's got more side spin. I'm going to just stick with the Titan. The king of balls. I'm definitely going to want to have something that's got more curl. We'll see if we can overshoot it. I always like when you play a hole the very first time and you're playing holes the very first time. So like my MO when I'm playing holes for the very first time is I don't really worry about elevation numbers or trying to figure that stuff out. The first thing you need to do is just try and figure out how to play the hole. What club you need, what ball you want, how you're going to attack the hole. So you may like work really hard on a hole on a drive shot and you bring out all this stuff and then you get to the second shot and you go, wow, this second shot sucks. And you worked your ass off to get to that spot and that spot sucks. So like that is a massive turn. And with those trees over there on the left-hand side, I'm not sure that you could do a max overpower hook. So this might definitely be a hole where you'd want to bring a ball that's got more side spin, even than 3. But when in doubt, I always like to just give it everything it's got and then see if that's too much. Because sometimes you'll give it everything it's got and then you're like, wow, that was a little too much. So there's 1 5, there's 2 5. Oh, and I'm going to clip the rough right there. I may have to play this hole again because that shot sucked. Just to see if we could make the turn. That's the whole deal. Can we make the turn? It looked to me like it actually might have been, I was so far, it's hard to say because I was so far to the right, like on that trajectory, it looked like it might have been able to make the turn. But I think if I would have hit that perfect, that it would have bled off at the end. It wouldn't have been on the right one. So this is once again one of those holes that you may need to bring out a 4 side spin ball or even a 5 side spin ball. And yes, that's why Golf Clash makes those balls, so that on holes like this, if you want to get up there in one, that's what you got to do. Those trees on the left might be far enough away that you might be able to do a max overpower hook. I almost wish mine had gone in the drink so that I could have tried it. But we could end up in this area, so let's see what we got. There's Min. And there's Max. So we're right at Max Club. I'm using a 3 power ball, so it's 1 per ring. So it should be 2.8 rings. It's 2.8. Exactly. Hitting it perfect. Definitely should have pulled that more. And that's one of those things where you don't know. If I'd have did the 0.9, where you just do 0.9 even though you got a 3 power ball and the thing says 1, or is it an adjustment where I need to make a wind adjustment on there? Because even if I would have made a 10% adjustment, that was way off. That was like 25% off. Opponent getting up there. I'm going to play this hole one more time because I want to see a clean shot and see like what we can do around the thing. And if I end up in the drink, then I will I'll try a max. And then we can kind of know that you're going to need a ball with more side spin. And if I end up in the drink, then I will go back and try a max overpower hook shot just to see if we can if we can clear those trees. Those trees look problematic. See if my opponent can get up there from there. Using the big dog. And if you're trying to make that bend, a white ball is definitely... you could play this hole with a white ball for sure, but you need to be in the fairway because it's definitely not going to have enough spin to get you on the right path to that hole. We'll play that one again. Hole 4. Let's play that one more time. One more time. Let's see if we can. If I can not hit it 2 rings great to the right. 2 rings great to the left would have at least put me in the fairway, and I would have ended up in the drink no matter what. But at least we want to see if we can make the bend with a 3 side spin ball. If I can't make the bend with a 3 side spin ball with an APOC 6, then you're definitely going to want something with more spin. So a 5 power 2 spin. And so the deal is, on a hole like this, a 5 power ball will definitely get you farther forward, but it makes the angle to the cup harsher. So, you're almost pushing yourself so far forward that you're taking yourself out of the shot. And so I think on this, if you had a 5 power 5 side spin ball, that might be all right. But I mean, you can see where they ended up. Yeah, they had shit tons of distance. They probably had enough distance to get to the cup, but there's no way you're going to be able to make that angle because you're too far forward in the shot. Really, where you need to be is about right there. Because I think if you're all the way forward, I'm probably taking myself out of the shot. I think no matter what, I'm going to end up in it. So I'm going to actually pull it back a little bit. And I'll be able to do overpower if I do that. So I'm going to end up 3-1. Should be about 2 rings. Hitting it perfect. All right, so we're going to get a good idea here of whether I've got enough to make the bend. And I don't think I am. I think I'm going to bleed off. And unfortunately, I didn't get enough distance to put me in the drink. Damn it. Even a 4 side spin ball there, I think a 4-4-4, if you put it out there and you did max overpower like that, it's still, I think, too far. You're taking yourself out of the shot. All right, you talked me into it. I'm going to play this hole one more time. We'll look at it. I'm going to this time I'm going to try that where I actually don't worry about the distance forward and go back there in the sand. But it's always good to practice these shots. Where am I at? There's max. There's mid. So I'm about the 3/4 range. Put on just a titch of backspin. I'm going to do 2 per ring, so that's about 1.5 rings and a smidget. Hitting it perfect. Didn't pull it enough. And distance was off. See if my opponent can recover from there. Or make the shot in the hole. Ronan, the sniper elites. Let's check Ronan out. 6 billion earned, 19,856 games. People, it's funny. People always bitch about, well, look at the clubs you have. Look at the clubs that my opponents have. You think somebody that's, what, 6 billion earned with 19,856 games, do you think that they haven't opened up some kick-ass chests? I mean, I have 339 million earned, and they have 6 billion. So, like, I've played, most of my matches have been in the Tour 7 range, and in order to win 6 billion with that many games won, you could do the math. You could take 6 billion and divide it by how many games they've won. That'll tell you how much they've won per game, and it'll kind of give you an indication of where they play most of their games. They're opening up much bigger chests, getting much better prizes, a lot more club cards, better club cards. When they get the club they're looking for, they're going to get a lot more club cards for it. So they definitely have killer clubs. Better clubs than me. All right, let's play that one more time. One more time. How many times are you going to play hole 4? As many times as it takes. I go first again. Let's play this like this. Okay, there's Max. It gives me plenty of room. I'm at the +3 mark. I'm going to give myself 2 rings of separation. That's about 2 1/4 rings. 2 1/3. 2 1/3 rings. Hey. No overpower, just max curl. Hitting it perfect. We'll see how much distance, how much run I can get. If I can get enough run to stick me, or if I'm still going to bleed off. And that's hell and gone away from it. So definitely want a bigger side spin ball. And you're definitely going to want, if you're going to want to get up into that area up there. I'm going to play this hole one more time, and we're going to practice. We're going to do a max overpower hook, so we can kind of get an idea of all the ways we can play it. The ways that I've played it up to this point, more side spin. Because I'm not really going to get any more curl. And I'm not sure, if you continue to go forward, you're just making it harder to make the turn. You may have the distance, but you're hitting, and where that's at, it's strategically placed. They place that stuff. Those people that work for Playdemic who are building these holes are not idiots. They know what they sell. And so they're going to make sure that when you're on these holes that you're going to go, man, remember that hole right there? We needed that 5 side spin ball. If we really wanted to get some distance out. This is not my cup of tea for rough bumps, because you have really no room, no room for error on the. I'm at minimum grizzly, which is 1.4 per ring. It seemed like I'm going to do a 20%. So 1.2 times 2.4 equals divided by 1.4, 2.05 rings. So 2.1. Oh, I hit it great to the right. If I'd hit that perfect, I would have missed it on the right hand or on the left hand side, and so I still didn't pull it enough with a 20%. So maybe a 25. We're going to get one more shot at it. So How many times is he going to play hole number 4? 4 times. Did he run out of practice tokens? Yeah, because he played hole 4 40 times. Here we go. Let's see if my opponent can get in. Perfect. Il perfecto. All right. Perfect. In the hole. It's a big ass par 4. There's some of those in the game. There's some of them in the game that are, there's a few par 4s in the game that are like, most of the par 4s we think of them as birdie holes with an eagle opportunity, but there are a few par 4s that are birdie holes. Like, they're par holes with a birdie opportunity. Like, there really isn't a decent shot at an eagle. It's not that you can't get one, but not a really good shot. Let's try that one more time. This time we're going to do a max overpower hook. So I'm going to try 4 different ways on it just so that I can see what's possible. At this point right now, in my mind, I need a 5 side spin ball. And I think you could use a 3 power ball. I think a 3 power ball would be fine. Now, if you had a headwind, you may have to bump it up to a 4 power ball, but I think you'd only have to use a 4 power ball during a headwind, but you definitely want to bring out a ball that's got more side spin. All right. Let's get all of that spin on there. I'm going to be in that area. So there's one. Take the wind out. I'm going to do a 2-ring pull. Make sure I got all the forward distance. And we can easily clear those trees. Excellent. And that puts us on the right trajectory towards the hole. Woo! Close. So I'll have to go back and watch that to see where I set it up out there. That was 21 rings. So the only time I ever do, like the very first time I take a max overpower hook shot, I do kind of work the ring. There are charts out there that you can find. You can do a search for them for how many rings to pull out a club when you're doing a max overpower hook shot. But on a hole like this, usually I only do that the very first time. So then what I'll do is I'll go back and watch the video and see where that was. So like I was on the transition, on the low tide, I was on the sand, or I'll find a spot out there. My white ring was this spot off. And then what I really want to look for is on my first bounce, how much room do I have? And on this particular hole, how much room do I have to the right? So how much room can I move it in to try and get my trajectory so that I'm going more towards the cup? But I actually think I'm going to change my tune here, and I think that maybe the max overpower hook shot might be the way to go. Whew, that wind just pushed me off about a half a cup. That type of wind angle is difficult if you're eyeballing it. You can do a ring adjustment there, but it's really easy to overdo it. So if you do a ring adjustment there, what I would recommend is pulling back and then looking at where it put you. Because those type of wind angles are very difficult. It's always better when you're coming in if you want to do the rapier shot where you're dealing with like a pure side wind. Headwind and tailwind aren't really going to affect it, but like a pure side wind, you can get a really good read on it. But when you got those where it's just barely pushing it off, especially if you've got side spin on the ball, on the shot going in. Is it affecting the ball more at on the first bounce where it's kind of going in that direction, or is it pushing it off more as it's starting to turn? All right. So that is definitely a hole that I'm going to go back and watch this video to see what I did on that fourth shot and where I set it up, because I think that doing a max overpower hook there, and I know they have, I think I actually have some in my bag. Seems like, let's see, power. We're looking for a 3 and we're looking for side spin. So it seems like there was one of the 3 power, 5 side spin, 5 wind resistance. The backpack ball. It seemed like there was another one as well. I think this is the one my opponent was using earlier, and I was thinking they were using a 5 power ball, but I think this might have been the one they were using. So you got 5 side spin here. I bought these balls not so much because of the backspin boost. Maybe that is going to be so situational, but I bought these because I was looking for a 5 side spin ball, because there are some shots like this where a 3 power ball is more than enough. And in that particular slot, the 5 side spin might be like where I came in, coming around the bend. I tailed off right in this area right here, so I was kind of on this trajectory coming through in this quadrant down here. So if I brought out, and that was a 3 side spin ball, so if I brought out a 5 side spin ball, it might actually over side spin me. I may have to set my shot up more to the left in order to get the run straight through the cup. So when you set up that max overpower hook shot, it's going to depend a lot on which ball you're using, on how much side spin it's got, because you can over side spin it. But what I'm going to do when I go back and watch the video, I'm looking for, number one, what kind of spot out here can I use as a marker, so that I don't have to count out 21 rings next time. I can come out to that spot and put my white ring on the transition, or I can put my bullseye on the high tide mark, and I can make my adjustment from there. That's number one. And number two is, where did my first bounce land? How much room do I have on this? Because if I was way out here when I came through, I've got plenty of room to move in to try and get me down through the lane. But if I was really close right here, then I don't have enough, I can't, if I try and move it in so that I can get the run through the middle, I'm going to end up clipping the rough right here. So I'll go back and watch that and see what I can and cannot do. I may be able to get it done with a 3 power, 3 side spin ball if I have enough room right here to be able to move it in just a little bit to get me down through the center. A top spin, a 3 side spin top spin boost ball, like a 3 power, 3 side spin top spin boost ball right there, might be able to get you on instead of just out in front. Hole number 5. Wow, we finally moved on. Yes, I have moved on. Hole number 5. All right, this is one of those holes, and you can see where the tee boxes are. So if you're in the pro tee, master tee, this area right here for the rough bump coming in, when you start to get into now you're doing this rough bump and then trying to bring it that direction to the cup. This is typically not an area that I'm a big fan of doing rough bumps, just because if you hit it to the right, you miss the rough. And hitting the rough in a rough bump is, in my opinion, the most important part of a rough bump. It's super easy if you miss off to the right, you miss the rough completely, and then you're toast. And if you miss to the left, bam, you're in the sand. And if the wind's blowing anywhere in this quadrant where you have to pull over the sand in order to take the wind out, now we're problematic. It might be better if you bring out a club that's got a lot of topspin, of using this rough area. Now you're still going to have this quadrant over here as far as like moving you out into the sand, but this could be an option. So you might have 2 shots in your bag. One shot that's on the rough, and then another shot depending on where it's at. Now you may be able to hit up into this area and then bring it around, but this is if you don't hit it perfect, you're smoked. Even this area right here, if you don't hit it perfect. Depends on how big that is. If you can get 2 rings in it, it gives you a little teeny bit of leeway, but We'll have to see. I'll take my number 2 bag, and I'm just going to take a Quasar. I'm going to start off with a Katana just because the 3 side spin might be, I want that option. If I don't need any of the side spin, I can drop down. And let's pin that. Unpin a ball. What balls do I have pinned right now? I'll unpin that one. And we'll pin a Quasar just in case I need it. Quickly, I can switch and I don't have to search through the deal. Now, I don't have a big ball inventory, but for those of you that have a massive ball inventory, geez, you thought it was bad before. I'm not sure that the club card trading, I mean, I know everybody's had a chance to get used to it, so it might be a little bit more familiar, but it still seems like it's not quite as handy as it could be. Here we go. Maybe we'll be able to get an opponent. Maybe. Someday. Snipe. There actually is a bird. Everybody says you go snipe hunting and there is no snipe. There is actually a bird called the snipe. Where am I at? There's Max. There's Min, so I'm right at mid club. Let's see if I have enough topspin to get me there. Just barely. And that kind of wind, this is one of those ones where it's definitely going to be difficult to work that wind out without getting distorted. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. And I'm going to put like a half a ring back on it because it is getting distorted right there. Hitting it perfect. Close. Low wind ball. That's 2 wind. You bring a 5 wind ball there. That 4 goes way down. You could probably get that done with Ricky. And I was at Mid Club and I didn't. Let's see where I would have been at Mid Club. So Mid Club should have been 1.1 per ring. And I did 1. So I underpulled it and still missed it on that. Didn't pull it enough. Now it might have been me pushing that wind back in. Maybe I didn't need to do that. Maybe. I missed my grid. My Android device does not, because the grid that I was using is not in the Play Store. Google, the monopoly Google, has determined that because it's not in the Play Store that it cannot be secure, and so they will not allow it to work with stuff. If I got a grid that was in the Play Store, and I will tell you that the grids that are in the Play Store, I've tried a bunch of them and they're not nearly as good as the one that I had before. In my opinion, they blow. I could use the one from Golf Clash Notebook. I could. And I might. And that might be my only option. Hole number 6. That hole's definitely got some possibilities. I want to play that hole with Dunner because Dunner, those types of rough bumps and that type of stuff is his bailiwick. So that's one of those holes that I definitely think there's a shot right there on that rough. But it could be problematic with the wind, depending on which way the wind's blowing, if you have to pull over that sand, because it was definitely distorting the rings. Hole number 6. Let's see what hole number 6 has in store for us. Hole number 6. Big ass. Is this a par 5? Par 5. Once again, we have it looks like we have a great opportunity for a max overpower hook shot here. I'm going to take a power 3 ball out there and let's see what we can get done. We'll just take the same stuff. I may switch up to a Titan because I have a few. Just a few. Finding an opponent. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. I'll allow it. I promise. Any day. Come on. Come on. Hooray. Ha, ha, hooray. Hooray. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can bring out a ball enough to get in front of this little bend right here, the farther you can get in front of that bend, you can definitely make a run at this hole. I mean, I don't think it's possible to get all the way up there, but you could definitely make a run. Let's switch this to a Titan. The king of balls. Where is the Titan? Okay, I don't need to look at it again. I just want to pick it. Let's switch to my number 5. So there's 15. There's 21. I'm going to pull back a little for the wind because I'm running out of time. We'll try a max overpower hook shot the first time and just see what kind of run we can get down there if we can catch the fairway. And I was definitely close to the rough right there, so there is, I could pull it to the right just a little bit more on that setup to come through there, but if I put it any more to the left, that first bounce, it's going to end up clipping the rough. And I don't know that I could get, because really on this trajectory, maybe getting over on the, it's going to be difficult with all that sand there. So if you're up high and you had more distance, if I had more distance there, I'd probably end up in that sand. If I was in the dead center, I'm going to end up in the sand. So you really need to be lower, and you can't really go any lower unless you had more side spin. You try and come through this area right here. Is it showing my touches on the screen? I'm going to have to fix that. Where am I at? There's max. There's min. I'm in mid club. It's 1.6 per ring. So 2.2 divided by 1.6. 1.37 rings. .37 rings, so 1.4 rings. Oh, I hit it great to the right. And a perfect would have been in the hole. It might have been short, but I think it might have caught the front lip and just rolled right in. And that was straight up. No elevation adjustment. It's possible. Get you up there to give you an Albie. So when I go back and watch, this is why it's so important to record your own video, so that you can go back and you can see where your shots ended up. So when you're in these practice rounds and you're trying to learn these holes, recording your own video so that you can go back and you can see what you did. And you don't have to necessarily, it's hard sometimes because you're in the moment, you're just playing. And then you go back and you look at it and you had a game plan, but in the moment you did something different, and you can pick up on that and see, like, how did, maybe I need to make a bigger adjustment, or like, hey, that wasn't the right ball, or hey, I needed to be in this area. Let's go look at that hole. So my first bounce, and once again, did a max overpower hook shot. I want to come over here and find a spot. My white ring was like, I was in this area out here. I think my white ring was like 1 ring, 1.5 rings off of this transitional surface. So like, was there some other spot out here that the other side of my ball guide was touching, so that I have a starting spot? So when I come to this hole, I don't have to sit here and dick around with this measurement, because one time you do it and you get the 21 and a half rings that you want, and the next time you only did 20 and a half, and the next time you did 22 and a half. And so your spot out here is a moving target, as opposed to going, hey, I need to be where my white ring is touching the transition between the first and the second cut of the rough. And then I take out the wind. And then I can take the shot. So with a 3-power, 3-side spin ball, or 2-side spin ball, actually. Let's see if I can touch the screen here. My trajectory ended up coming in this area right here. So really, in my mind, like looking at this, trying to thread this needle, if you were trying to get onto the green side fairway, trying to thread that needle, really where you want to be. And I think what you should be happy with is probably just right out here in front. Even where I was at, I was in mid short iron. So not a bad spot to be. But if you were trying to get to the other side, coming around the bend, having more side spin and trying to bleed through here is going to be you're going to have, if you could make that, you're going to end up in the sand a whole lot less, because if you're trying to come through this area, this sand and this sand are going to eat your lunch most of the time. I think just being out right here in front is our goal. Being in that short iron range for Albie is definitely going to be good. Now, where my first bounce hit out here in this area, I was 1 ring away from this transitional surface. So wherever I started off over here, I definitely can't come to the left. If I brought out a bigger side spin ball to try and get me more towards this area right here, I'd actually want to give myself a little bit more breathing room, and I'd probably start myself off at least a half ring, maybe a full ring more to the right, to give myself a little bit more breathing room right here. Because if I'd hit anything great to the left, I'd ended up clipping that rough. I had no room for error. Well, excuse me, I'm doing a max horsepower hook shot, so if I wouldn't have caught all of the hook, sorry about that. Definitely possible to get up there and get us an Albie. That is a hole we definitely want to focus on and try and get that shot down, because that could be a great hole for us. I mean, if you're in mid or minimum short iron, I think you could bring out a bigger ball and try and do that kind of deal, and you might be able to just straight out shoot it up there if you brought out a big 5-power ball, especially one with top spin boost. But being in mid or minimum short iron would definitely be give us good opportunities. Okay, what do we got here? We got a big par 4 right here. And they have put these dog legs. So we're dog leg left, dog leg right, switching it up. And they have put these dog legs strategic for different balls to try and get up in there. So if we're right here on the peak and we're running out this direction and we've got to cover this angle, obviously we want to get in front of this as much as we can so that we can make this angle less on how much curl we have to use. But what can happen, and I don't know if I was explaining it good enough earlier, if you get too far forward in your shot where you're at, and I'm sure you can't get out this far, but if you got this far out in here so that you had to bounce out in this area, even in this area, you can get to the point where this angle, you've pushed yourself so far forward that you're now taking yourself out of the shot where the angle is just too big for it. You actually would have had a better shot of getting on if you'd have pulled back a little bit and then tried it so that your curl can become effective. Let's see where we end up. We'll just take out another, we'll take out another power 3 ball, a Titan. I need to check to see how many practice. I think I started off with 18 and we're playing 9 holes and I played hole number 4 times. So I should only be 13 and it should leave me 5, but that's how math normally works, but it may not always work that way in Golf Clash. If I can find an opponent Okay, just give me a replay. Come on. It's practice. Come on. John. Thank you. So we have 2 holes so far that a max overpower hook shot might be the shot. Can we go for 3? Wow, that is way in the hell down there. I actually think do this with a extra mile. This is definitely a hole that we want to bring out a bigger power ball will definitely help us because of where it's at. So we can get in front of that if we had a 5 power balls. If you have a 4-4-4, that would definitely help. 2 per ring. There's 4. One ring, 7 rings, 27 rings, great to the right. Bigger power ball. Top spin boost ball. Maybe one more click of side spin. So like a 3 side spin ball. Give you a little bit more leeway. Four power. Those albatross balls, those 5 power top spin boost. I think it was a pretty good win too. I think it was like a 3 win. Seems like the win was good on it. They might be good. Okay, so I'm in long iron. Where's my short iron? Oh, I'm right at max short iron. Now it looks like it's going downhill there, so I'm going to leave it just a tit short. So it's max. It's 1.1 per ring. 2.8 divided by 1.1. 2.5. 4 rings. There's 2.5. There's the 4. Now let's hit it perfect and it'll go in the hole. Oh, and that was like 2 rings great to the left. That was not perfect. And that was 2 rings great to the left. And it did roll forward, so I could have left it a little bit shorter from where it was. With that kind of rollout, if you missed the flagpole, it might bounce over the cup, even though it's going pretty slow. You know how Golf Clash works. That would probably bounce over. So I could have left it maybe a good square short and just let it roll out. And the other thing here is that this is the inconsistency in the game, in my opinion, of like when we talk about elevation or we talk about wind adjustments, that's all bullshit, because that green is definitely elevated from where we were at out there. So by game standards, you should be taking a little bit of wind off. And that may be true on this hole, but that's typically not the way it works. When it's downhill, you almost always have to make an adjustment. But when it's uphill, it doesn't always work the same way. There we go. That was hole number 7. What are we on? Hole number 8. So far, a couple of these holes, I mean, I think this hole right here, we could do a max overpower hook shot, and we may net a little bit more distance. And a bigger power ball, because I think where I was at, I'll have to go back and watch the video, but it seemed like my red line was like in this area right here. I think with the max overpower, I was probably like right at the apex of that transition. So if you can get in front of that, number one, you don't need as much curl or side spin. So if you can get anywhere in front of it, you get a bigger power ball. I'll have to go back and really look at that, because that may be a spot where either a 3 power ball with a little bit more top spin, and I like the fact that I was in short iron, but it would have been nice to give myself a little bit of leeway there against the red line. So if we'd had a full, where my red line was at, I was right at it. So if we'd had a headwind, pulling it back, and I prefer taking shots to the cup where I can put on 1 or 2 backspin, because then you're controlling the ball as it rolls to the cup, as opposed to putting on topspin, because then it's rolling out and you don't have a lot of control over it. So like if you put on the backspin, you may be able to get right up to the cup, and you wouldn't have to leave a little bit of space, because it's not going to roll out. It's gonna do its thing and then come to a stop. So the approach shot here is definitely something to work on. I'm not sure if I could get any more on there as far as distance without changing up the ball. All right, what's hole number 8? Let's look at it. Let's see if we can get hole number 8. All right. We have no rough bump opportunity here. This is one of those holes that could be difficult if we have to start on the pin side. From where we're at, the sand's kind of out of play for us, so we have options. If you're playing back from the, it looks like, especially from the pro tee, yeah, they're involving the sand a lot more when you draw the straight line here. So your area coming out, it's a lot more diminished. There may be a shot. There's not going to be any rough up here. You're not going to have enough top spin, so you're going to probably have to go right at it. Looks to me like it's a long iron shot. So I'm going to take a quasar just to give me a little spin, just in case I need it. If that's not enough, I could switch to a katana, or as Dale Appleby puts it, katana. And we'll see where we're at. So Grizzly, 0.9, 1.1, 1.4. It's probably going to be towards the 0.9 minimum or maximum club. Maybe, just maybe. Spinning. Spinning. Hopefully everybody had a good summer. Summer's almost over. It was hot. At least it's been really hot in most of the U.S. We got a little teeny bit of rain here at my house like a week ago, right when I got home. And it rained for like 5 seconds. It was probably like 0.001 of an inch. It wasn't much. It rained for literally for nothing. Well, that was the first time it's rained here. I don't think it's rained here since June. Which is not totally uncommon for where I live, but our weather patterns definitely changed. Close. All right, here we go. I wasn't even paying attention to my opponent. I should already know, based off where my opponent was, like what kind of shot I got. So there's max club. There's min. So I'm pretty close to min club. Okay. .6 min club, 2.6 divided by 1.4. That's minimum, and that's no adjustment. Just a straight up 1.85 rings. So 1.9. Hitting it perfect. Just a bit outside. Slight underpull. Maybe like 5%. And one more tick of backspin. The ball guide's lying. It rolled out a little faster than it looked like it was going to. I like that spot down there too, on the other side of the sand, instead of being next to the sand. Number one, you can put less spin on it, but the other thing is, it gives you more opportunity. You can consistently do that shot and try and take the sand out of play every time, so that every time, it doesn't really matter which way the wind's blowing, you're going to be able to take that shot. Let's look at that hole. Yeah, so instead of being next to the sand here, giving yourself, I was trying to give myself 3 rings of separation and then bringing it back around. You're going to have to use quite a bit of side spin to bring it around, number one. And number two, you are putting yourself, but coming straight back into this area, you may be able to pick up a few angles on the sand and try and take the sand completely out of play, so the sand never affects your shot. And you don't have to use as much side spin. You can come a little bit straighter at it. All right, hole number 9. Hole number 9. Let's go look at it. Let's look at hole number 9. Okay, there's been some big holes here, so some big long holes. Let's see what hole number 9 is. So Tommy's saying 10% on hole number 1, shot number 1, and 0 on the second one. And that's with what clubs, with what ball. So par 5, anything we can end up, like, what we have to watch out for is this is a danger zone. Now, depending on where the flagpole is here, but we don't want to end up in this zone on the drive shot, because now we've got to contend with the tree. So we either want to be short back here so that we can come at it, and if the pin is up here in this corner, you know, just depending on, I wish they had the flagpole here so that we could see where it was at. But if the pin's up here and we draw this line out into this fairway, anything on this side of the line, we could be in trouble with the tree, where we've got to use some kind of spin to bring it around. Or we need to be in front of these trees so that we have full access to the green. I don't know that you can hit it that far, but if you bring out a big power ball, I'm sure you can hit it that far. I'm sure of it. It kind of sucks in pro because the winds are lower in pro, and you don't, even though you're playing from the second tee, you're not getting the full effect. In expert, there are things that you can do in expert because of the higher winds and distance that you can get that you can't do, and you can't get in rookie or in pro. Pro's kind of the worst of every world. You don't have the high winds like they got in expert, so you can't really achieve some of those shots, and the prizes suck. You're going through all that stuff, and then you don't have access to any of the Tour 7 epics. I played pro a few tournaments in pro, but it was like, you know, it's not worth all the effort, because if I want to play, I might as well try and get some of the bigger rewards. So yeah, you can get past those trees if you bring out a big enough ball. For sure. Okay, 2-2 should be a ring and a little. Should be right about 2.1 per ring, so just a ring and a little, and then let's put the forward moving wind back in. Hitting it perfect. See if that puts me right where I said I didn't want to be, right in between those trees. So either you're going to need to bring out a bigger power ball so that you can get past those trees, or you're going to have to lay it up in front of those trees. So you're a Playdemic programmer and you're designing this course, and you're like, okay, 3 power balls, people could bring out Titans, the king of balls, kingmakers, and blast that sucker out there. And we're going to put those trees right in their path. So like, you're either going to need to be smart and strategic and lay it up like right out in this area right here, kind of to the right of where my opponent's ball guide's going, out into that little fat area. Or you're going to need to bring out a bigger power ball so that you can blast past those trees. my opponent might possibly be even a worse spot than me. Can I get over? Hell no, I can't get over. But what I can do is I can curl the hell out of it. See if I can run. Actually, I might just be able to run down that hill. Of course, because it is going to roll down that hill. So I'm going to try it from right there. And we'll see what kind of roll we can get down that hill. So max club, 3 power ball. I'm just going to do 3.1 rings. Hitting it perfect. Not enough to get me up there. The wind pushed me off. See if my opponent can get their... they do max curl here with a bunch of backspin. This shot in one-on-one, either direction. Now, yeah, there you go. You're going to have to put some curl on it, dude. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the spot you want. And it'll roll right back down to the cup. That'll be very close. Or does it stop? It stopped. Look at that. I do not think wind is going to be a factor from this point, and it's pretty much straight in my face, so I'm going to go right at the flagpole. Hitting it perfect. We'll see if wind played a factor. If it hits the flagpole, it did not play a factor. Dead center perfect. All right, so we've seen all the holes. I think there's a ton of opportunities on these holes, and there's some of these holes, like in practice, I really don't like bringing out. I really just kind of want to play around with balls that just mortal balls and see what's possible. And then on some of these holes, it may be, I think there's a couple of holes that we're definitely going to be doing max overpower hook shot, and I'm going to definitely be doing max overpower hook shots on. And I think we can do them with just the normal balls. Like there may be a couple of those holes that having a topspin boost ball might be the thing. We don't necessarily need any more power, and I'm not sure. Let's see what my power side spin. Let's see down in the 3. What am I looking for? I'm looking for top spin, 3 power. Yep, I don't have any top spin boost balls in the 3 power range, or do I? Top spin. How is this ordered here? That one's backspin. Yep, that's it. I don't think I have any balls that give me a topspin boost other than these albatross balls, and I will tell you, I wish I would have bought more of those when they came out. A 5 power with a 2 topspin boost. 3 wind. The side spin, when this ball comes into play, the topspin boost is really, really helpful, and it still has 3 wind, so that is definitely an awesome ball. We got some topspin boost on that ball, but we got 5 power there, and there's some of those holes that I don't know that will need that. But on this particular hole, even a 4-4-4, just trying to get in front of those trees. So with a 3 power ball, both me and my opponent ending up behind the trees in this area, we're going to need something to get us forward from where the flagpole is at. The flagpole is here. So if we can just clear this tree, I mean, we've got a wide open spot to it, and from that angle, I think we have a really nice rough bump right in here that we could do. You might actually hit yourself too far forward. You don't want to get too far. Let's see what that looks like. So if I hit it, if we wanted to do a rough bump here and our pin was down in this area, So if we're looking at that rough, we kind of don't really want to be too much farther forward than that, but we want to be just clear those trees. So there's like an area right out here I think is absolutely ideal, where we've got a nice, fairly T rough bump going straight at the cup, and we can avoid this hill. Or if you were down in this area and you just did a layup, you're going to have a nice T rough bump, and you've got a pretty wide rough right here. The problem with doing and relying on these rough bumps is any wind that's blowing on these angles in this range, you're going to have to pull over the sand. And it looks, at least from the other sand traps that I've seen on this particular course, like the sand is going to distort your rings and you'll have to adjust for it. So it may be one of those situations where I would try both shots. Like you could bring out something bigger and go for it. You could just start up here and not use the rough bump, and just, so if the wind's blowing that you have to engage the sand, you could switch to your alternate shot and use a little bit more backspin and start off on the fairway and go at the hole, so it gives you a little bit more maneuver room. And if the wind's blowing so you don't have to move over the sand, you do the rough bump. Or you could switch shots, and you could take this shot right here. In some situations it might give you a little bit better angle. So we do have options on these holes. I'm going to go back. I love going back and watching the videos on brand new holes, because sometimes I'll catch something, or it's like, hey, goal number one is to figure out what clubs, what ball we want to use. And then we can start worrying about trying to make the little micro adjustments to get to the cup. Because if you start that stuff off down here, or you were in one spot and you're like, oh, I need to do this, and then later on you've switched up equipment and now you're here and you're still doing the adjustment that you did from over here, it may not be the same. This may be higher, this may be lower, you're in a different club. So before you start worrying about any kind of elevation stuff or where you're in, what you want to do to the cup, you first have to figure out where you can consistently get, so that the next time you come here and you go, okay, hey, I did a +5 and it wasn't enough, so now I need to do a +10, and you're in the same spot. But if you're here one time and here one time and here one time and over here one time and over here one time, and you're doing the same adjustment, it doesn't typically always work out. You want to make this first shot, looking at the money shot, consistent over and over and over, so you can really start to dial this number in. And you can't focus on this number until you can consistently get into that spot. So if you're playing these holes for the first time, like everybody else, don't worry about you can be serious about it. Don't just do your normal shot without any elevation stuff. But once we start figuring out where we're going to be at and what clubs and what ball we're going to bring to get to that spot, then we can start focusing on that second shot. Thanks for watching. I will be shooting videos. I'm back, so I'll be shooting videos, and I'll get with Dunner and we can do a practice round, see if he wants to play. He might not even want to play anymore. I don't think he's been playing either, so we all just like fell off the face of the planet. All because of me. But I am home and I am alive. My wife's happy I'm alive, so we will get back at it. Thanks for watching, and have a great tournament week.